Sounds good.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today, we are joined by Matt McClellan, who is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Hona. Matt, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Adrian.
Matt, can we start off? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Hona?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, my name is Matt McClellan. I'm one of the co-founders of Hona. We started Hona about 3 years ago. My business partner and I, one of the other co-founders, his name's Manny, we work together at a case management software company, which is essentially, project management for law firms where they manage all of their cases out of. We were working there together, and a recurring theme kept coming up, as in people just kept asking for something like a Domino's pizza tracker for their legal cases. And so, as we were commuting to work, we were having conversations around where the legal client experience needed to head, and that sort of thing that's akin to a pizza tracker or a package tracker just kept coming up and surfacing. And so we decided to build it. And so that's been nearly 4 years now, where we've been building Hona, which is a software platform for legal communications with legal clients.
And when, with Hona, when law firms come to you and say, we really, need the help of Hona, what are the problems that you're helping those law firms solve? What are some of the pain points that they're experiencing that Hona is resolving for them?
Yeah, there's a couple main ones. The original thesis was all around inbound client phone calls. So the average law firm gets dozens of calls a day from clients just simply asking for updates on their case. That's it. Nothing crazy. They're not looking for legal advice. They're just like, hey, where's that at? And so that's two-sided. A, that's not a great client experience, right? That they're calling in asking for updates. But B, your staff is now taking valuable time where they could be working on cases and progressing legal matters. And they're using that time instead just to have the mundane conversation around, well, nothing's happened yet. It takes a long time. Here's why it takes so long. And so kind of twofold. One's client experience, and the other one's operational efficiencies, because so much time is wasted on, and don't get me wrong, client communication is extremely important. If someone calls, you should answer, you should talk to them. But gone are the days where you need to call in and ask for updates. Like, there's not many big corporations that you can call in now and ask for updates. It's all through apps. It's all through text message updates. There's just so much that's changed. And we're bringing that type of technology to law firms to allow them to have that experience that feels just like how other businesses interact with people.
And I think, and this might be a little bit of a dated question now, right? But I think that, everybody saw sort of a push towards more remote interactions when COVID and the pandemic happened. Do you think that COVID and the pandemic sort of ushered in or furthered the legal tech space in some way?
Absolutely. So that case management software company I worked at, it was very common to be talking with law firms that were still working out of filing cabinets. And I worked there right. Through the pandemic period. And so it was very common. And then all of a sudden, COVID uprooted a lot of people from being able to go into an office every day. Physical documents, just like people couldn't use them anymore, or you'd have to bring those filing cabinets home. I knew an attorney who brought all the filing cabinets to his house because he couldn't be there with the staff and so on and so forth. And so, yes, 100%, COVID was a catalyst for a lot of this, but I think it more so was a catalyst for just like cloud-based case and document management. And we're now riding the wave of all the great add-ons you can add to a good case management software, which Hona falls into that bucket, where it's an add-on that, like, hey, now we've all been operating at least for 4 or 5 years on these case management systems, these really great collaborative pieces of software where you can work with your team and accomplish projects together. We're going from a world where now that everyone's starting to realize that that is a very powerful thing, not only for their day-to-day workflows, but their business in general is more profitable. And now they're just starting to add on all this really, really synergistic software that's going to allow them to reach even further than just that case management piece.
So when a law firm adopts this Hona, right? When it adopts the Hona software, what
Yep.
does the client end of that look like? Now, do their clients need to download an app, or how does that side of it work? What is the client-facing side of the software?
Great question. We were extremely intentional with how we designed the product. We had a couple theses. One, if the law firm staff had to do too much additional, it's not going to get used and it's not going to be a great experience for them. And so we
Right.
built integrations with all their systems that allow for automating a lot of this client journey and these updates, this pizza tracker like thing. Now, when a law firm updates something, and it could be a task completed in their software, it can be a phase that gets changed in their software. When one of those triggers happens, what's going to happen is a text message will automatically go out to their client. Now, this is important. Email's great and all, but there was a study done by MailChimp wherein only 22% of professional service emails were opened by clients. So only 20% of the emails are going to get opened. And so we took a very intentional stab at SMS as the first means of contact and communication. And so the client gets a text message saying, hey, there's been an update, and a link is just there, right there in the text message. All the client has to do is click the link. It pulls them directly into our web application, which we use magic links, which is really similar to like a DocuSign, where it's very, very secure. DocuSign uses the same technology for signing important documents, but we've applied it to our web app that is kind of an interactive portal where they can see where their case is at, get educated as to what's taking so long, what's coming up next, share documents. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do in there. But we took the really frictionless approach of doing SMS with a web app. And now at this point, we have an optional downloadable app. There's a few other ways to get into the application, but that first interaction with Hona is always going to be text message with a link that takes you into our web application.
Can you speak a little bit about, because I'm curious, and I think it's really interesting, because in the legal space, there's so much complexity in the legal space. And then how hard was that? How did you find the balance between, kind of managing all those complex, stages and phases in the legal space while still maintaining this user-friendly approach? Because at the end of the day, right, it has to be user-friendly.
Yeah, great question. So I'd say a lot of it comes down to how we think about it, right? So we talked to dozens and dozens of law firms before even building any bit of software. And the most common thing was, hey, we have tons of phone calls coming in, but also we answer the same 10 questions every single day. And so we built something that A, does the update, but B, actually educates them. There's a frequently asked questions section. There's videos you can embed that explain the most common questions that are asked. And so the user experience is an interesting thing where the client needs to know what's going on and why it's taking so long. But if you go too deep into the weeds, it actually arises more questions, right? And so we've taken that approach of like simple is best, because the old experience was they had none of this in front of them, or really forward-thinking firms would send like a letter or a package out or an email out at the very beginning of the case that explains what's going to take so long in this whole journey. But I think the beauty of what we did is we made it a proactive approach where we're proactively communicating with the client about their updates and giving them this resource that they can go to when they do have questions and when there are things that are kind of looming.
Well, we've talked a little bit about how Hona is user-friendly, but can we talk a little bit about the integration capabilities of Hona and how law firm owners can integrate Hona into their current systems?
Yeah, so we've got 14 integrations today. As far as cloud-based case management, the big players, I think we integrate with all of them. And so we've taken that approach where kind of what I mentioned earlier, it's like if law firm staff has to switch tab to tab and use 5 different softwares to accomplish their day-to-day workflows, that's a miss, right? That shouldn't be how it is. And so we essentially treat the practice management software, the case management software, as the source of truth and their hub that they work out all day long. And we just tack onto it. We've invested in an extension that sits on top of all of our integrations that allows you to access Hona's functionality without ever leaving the page. And so that's one of the approaches we've taken is we don't want you to leave your case management. That's where legal work gets done. But a really important aspect to legal work is communicating with the person you're doing the legal work for. And so we've made it a really intuitive experience for the legal staff to interact with our system, do what they need to do without having to, context switch all day long into these different software. Log into this one. Oh, now I got to log into this one. What was the website to get to that Hona app? None of that's necessary with the extension we've built.
Well, and I'm curious, that kind of leads a little bit into my next question that I had was, with Hona, is it something where it works with every system you encounter, or is it something where Hona has to be a little bit of tailor customed to the individual firms and the systems they have in place already?
That's a very interesting question. I could probably talk to you for 10 hours about this, but let me
a bit of a loaded question, I know.
Yeah, let me make it as concise as possible. So every law firm, really common case management software just for experience is Clio, right? Clio's one of the biggest in the game. And so Clio, two firms using Clio definitely don't use it the same exact way. Every one of these systems has customizations so what we've built is a way to integrate really seamlessly, and they can choose the workflows. So that's a piece of our implementation process, as we allow the clients to say, hey, here's how we use Clio, and how does that correspond with what I want to happen in Hona and what the experience I want my clients to have in Hona. And so, yes, we definitely the integrations are simple. They're kind of out of the box, but at the end of the day, the firm still has the ability to make the decisions they want and choose what goes on based on what they're doing in their system.
So do you ever encounter, this is a little bit of a different question, but do you ever encounter a situation where you're bringing Hona into a firm and say maybe one of the partners is really keen to adopt it, but another partner is like, why are we doing this? What's the, do you ever receive any pushback to trying to implement a new system? I imagine some of these guys, some of the older lawyers have been doing this for 20 years the same way. Why are we changing this? Do you ever encounter that?
Short answer, yes. Long answer is also yes. Definitely.
How do you deal with that situation?
Yeah, navigating that's tricky. What I've found is the easiest way to navigate it is to get their eyes on it, right? I don't care how long you've been practicing law. If you've got a cell phone today, you've interacted with businesses in a way that we've built, in a way that we have Hona to have clients interact with law firms, right? So it doesn't matter. If you're 70, you've been practicing for 40 years the same exact way, you're used to this change in technology. There's a complete change in how people interact with businesses they work with. And so once they see our system, it usually kind of settles the fears of change, because at the end of the day, we're bringing them this resource to allow their firm to be a great experience for all of their clients. And most people aren't resistant to that. They all want that. I've never met a law firm that doesn't want their clients to have a good experience, right? That's their business. That's their whole brand. Google reviews, all that comes from the experience that their clients have. So the easiest way to navigate it is just get people's eyes on it. Once they see what that experience is, they start, stepping into the shoes of their clients. It's usually a lot easier conversation.
Well, you mentioned the changing technology, and that makes me wonder, is Hona a software that is going to have to change and evolve as things progress and as technology progresses? And if so, how are you at Hona prepared to deal with that? How do you respond to those changes?
Absolutely. So I like to think of Hona as we really are paving and trailblazing a new client experience for law firms. There's no other company doing what we're doing. And so we really are on the innovative side. And so right now we are making decisions around what is the ideal client experience. We're coming up on 1,000 law firms using Hona.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot of law firms. And so we have these really great best practices. We know the Google reviews that our clients are getting. We know the pros and cons of what the experience is that their clients are receiving. And so we're able to make these decisions and build a software platform that A, makes operations way more efficient in the law firm, but also B, gives the ideal client experience to their clients. And so I do like to think that we have a product and engineering team that their job we're not copying anybody, right? We're trailblazing a new way that law firms communicate with clients. Now, all that to say, AI is changing the world in a lot of ways. And so we definitely are cognizant of how law firms are using software. And we look at a holistic view of the entire, technology stack of a law firm and make sure that we are in a conducive spot to fit into those practices. But definitely can be an interesting world with how fast it's evolving.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned AI, because that was my next question up on the slate for you. Was how has the emergence of AI impacted the legal tech space? And I guess, where do you see that going and developing?
Yeah, so I think that the legal tech space has evolved so much since COVID. To call back to COVID again, I think that's when people were forced. It was less of an option at that point. You needed this cloud-based collaboration software, right? And so that was the original catalyst. Now with AI and how insanely fast it's iterating over the past year, 18 months, I think what it's doing is it's just enlarging the appetite that law firm owners and law firm business operators have for new technology. An example that might paint this and illustrate this in a really clear way. I know a law firm, they only got a case management system like 3 years ago. They were a little slow. They took a long time deciding. They were really intentional about the one they decided to go with, post-COVID. And now, because he's tasted the beauty of a great software to run his firm off of, he's adopted like 15 other pieces of software that he would have never thought about. And that's because he's just seeing how fast things are evolving. And he told me, paraphrasing, he told me, if I would have known that running my business would be this much easier with all this technology, I would have done this 15 years ago. Now that's kind of a catch-22, because 15 years ago, most of this technology didn't exist. But the sentiment there is really important. It's like, oh man, I waited way too long. My life could have been a lot easier for a long time. And now that he's making more money, handling more clients with less staff, it's a game changer. And AI is only going to keep that up. Like the way we can generate documents, the way that we can read documents way quicker. Like law firms are changing very quickly because so much of this AI technology is around a lot of what their day-to-day is, taking in information, summarizing information, understanding large documents of information. That's only going to get better. Today is the worst it will ever be. And so it's such a fun time to be in the space, because not only is technology launching extremely quick, but the appetite, to your question, the appetite to adopt the technology is expanding dramatically.
Well, and I'd like to stay talking just kind of about, where things are heading in the future. Are there any kind of future developments or features that Hona users can expect to see from the software as a result of these, developing technologies? How do you think that those technologies are going to impact the experience for Hona users?
Yeah, there's
again, that's a loaded question. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk forever about this. I'm like, a co-founder is always a product person at the end of the day. You've got to care a lot about your product, and you're building something special, right? I believe that. I'll say it this way. So if you think of like a client journey, A to Z, right? A, the client first lands on your website or sees your ad on Facebook or sees your billboard, whatever that looks like. That first A interaction of the client journey, there's so much that happens after that. There's so much information you have to gather. There's so much, documents you got to put together. There's all this communication to keep them updated and give them a great client experience. Today, or our legacy product was kind of like it would take it from like C to Z. It was like once the client came on board, our platform would take over. It was a two-way texting software. It was an update software. It was this, pizza tracker-like thing for legal cases. We're venturing now. We launched a product just last week. We're venturing now into the lead side of the business, where the client journey actually starts. And so important to us right now is capturing, qualifying, and converting those potential clients into clients, and then continuing the journey with our platform, where there's one phone number they interact with during the entire process. They're not digging through emails to find, oh, they sent me something in email, let me go look that up. They're not going through different text threads, because the average law firm uses more than one phone number throughout the process because they have different bifurcated systems. And so this lead side of the house of capturing, converting, or qualifying and converting leads into new clients, that's a side we're jumping into now with e-signatures, with form data collection, with document uploading. All of that's going to be in Spot. That's going to seamlessly connect to the systems they use and allow them to automate the redundancies and actually bring more empathy to the times they do need to be speaking with a client.
So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I'm correct, under your management, Hona has really seen a rapid expansion. Is that correct?
Oh, it takes a village. Me, my two co-founders, and then a whole. We're coming up on 60 people. It takes a lot of people to make something happen. But yes, in the past 3.5 years, we've gone from no product and 0 customers to coming up on 1,000 with a product that really is world class.
And can you speak with us a little bit about what it's like to manage a company, a software, a product that is rapidly expanding like that? What does managing something like that take? I mean, I imagine that's got to be a pretty daunting endeavor.
I'll tell you one thing, it's not monotonous. Every day is a new day. But I'd say like the most interesting thing to me, and I love managing businesses. I love, solving problems, right? And at the end of the day, as you're scaling, new problems come up all the time that didn't exist 3 months ago.
Right.
A business is run very differently at 5 people versus 60. And, there's a bunch of milestones throughout where you need to pivot and make different decisions and change the way you're doing things. And so that's probably, my biggest learning and piece of advice is don't get married to your decisions today, because likely they need to change in 3 to 6 months as you continue to grow. And so like you got to find this really nice balance between moving quickly and making good intentional decisions. And that can be a hard balance to make because you're going to make wrong decisions. One of our core values of the business is we call it fail fast, fail forward. Where like, if you're going to fail, acknowledge you made a mistake, right? And then move forward because of it, learn from it, make a different decision because of that past decision. But we're all about people, our company would not be where it is today if we didn't give people the autonomy to make decisions for themselves. Like, we bring in people that we trust to make decisions, right? Like that's business 101. You got to bring in people that you don't have to micromanage or don't need to manage too directly because you trust their judgment. But in the case that they do make a decision that maybe wasn't the best decision, like, fail quickly because of it, like be done with it and move forward. And so I think all of that to say, things change constantly. Your needs today are much different than what your needs were 6 months ago and 6 months from now. But make decisions quickly. Don't dwell on things, and make the best decision for today that you could change easily change if you need to, and move forward because of.
Now you mentioned you saw the need for a software like Hona, but was there anything else that inspired you to get into the legal tech space?
I kind of fell into the legal tech space, and I'll tell a really short story to illustrate it. My first business I started during college. It was a commercial cleaning janitorial company. It was a ton of fun. I learned a ton. There was a ton of headaches that exist not only in that world, but primarily that world is a very interesting world. And so I built this company for nearly 4 years with a business partner. The team nearly hit 40 people. We had a lot of clients we were servicing on a weekly, monthly, daily basis. And then all of a sudden I came to the realization that that's not what I wanted to do with my life, my career. I had recently been married, didn't really know if that's the world I wanted to raise my family in, didn't want to get too committed to it. So I had the opportunity to liquidate my half of the business. And then I went into this year of limbo of not knowing what I wanted in life, but drawn towards software. I loved the opportunity, hearing from my clients at the cleaning company, like, hey, we've hired so many cleaning companies. You guys do a great job. This is like, you guys are, great to work with. Your staff is always so friendly. Like, that was stuff that made me so happy. All the other headaches didn't make me too happy. But when I was looking at what I wanted to do for my future, a lot of it had to do, like, I love servicing people. I love people's businesses running better because of me, and what the product and service that I offer. And so I found this world of SaaS, software as a service, and took a job kind of on a sales team over at that case management software company. Had no idea what I was going to get into, but I only had one thing I knew, and that's that I needed to start a software company one day. And so the next step in my mind that made the most sense was, okay, go find a company that's where you want to be in 5 years. Go learn from them, see what they did in the past, meet different, learn how to run that type of business. And so that's what I did. Fortunately, met the guy that I was going to start Hona with when I went there. And so that worked out really well. But sorry for the long story, but that's where I found the world. I fell into legal tech, but knew I wanted software. And then just like, there's so many ways, Adrian, to start a business. There's so many problems in the world that need to be solved that I think this could have happened in any business I landed in. There would have been a glaring need that I could build something around and solve.
Do you think that your experience with the commercial cleaning company has influenced your approach to entrepreneurship and management and operations today?
Definitely, yeah. So that's one really unique difference between the two is like, Hona's venture backed. We've raised money from investors, and we're growing, very, very quickly. That's something that just like you don't do in a janitorial space, especially when I was 22 starting the business. Like, I'm not going to go ask a bunch of investors for money. And so I think the efficiencies I learned of running a business off of the cash the business produced and still growing pretty fast. In like a 3.5 year period, we had 40 employees and I don't even know how many clients. And so I think that, yes, I learned a lot because I had to learn to be super scrappy, right? If you needed to fill payroll, you didn't take pay yourself sometimes because you're waiting from a check from one of the jobs you just finished or whatever that looks like. And so I think it's really aided the growth of Hona, where we've been able to intentionally grow as fast as we wanted to, but still in an efficient way, right? Because there's that balance when you're operating a business of like, hey, you could throw so many millions of dollars at something, but that's not usually the solve for something. You got to there's a common phrase in software, nail it, then scale it. So you got to nail the operations, you got to nail what you're doing, and then you'll be in a position to start scaling it based on the process that allowed you to even nail it in the first place.
Now, you mentioned earlier that currently there are like over 1,000 firms that have implemented Hona so far. And I'm wondering, I mean, that number is incredible. And I'm wondering if, all these firms that you've helped, when you think back, is there a story that really stands out of a business owner, a client, or a firm that you really saw a transformation in as a result of implementing Hona and as a result of your help and guidance?
Yeah. So one always comes to mind because they were like maybe client number 20. They were growing pretty quickly. They were looking for something to, do what we did, which was like, hey, our staff is inundated with phone calls from current clients asking for updates. And so they were looking for something. They didn't know something existed. They ran into us. We were an early company. We didn't have a brand name or anything like that. At client 20, you take a bit of a bet, right? They don't know people. They don't know firms that use Hona at that time. They didn't know anything like that. And so they took a bet. And, since then they've been with us nearly 3 years, probably. Yeah. I think this month's 3 years. They've tripled their caseload.
Wow.
And only added like 2 more staff because they're just so much more efficient around the client communication. We did a study with a different firm and found that the average staff member in their firm was spending about 35% of their time on client communication. And like, that's not just like it's important to talk to your clients. If they call in, they need to talk, you need to talk to your clients. But so much of that is redundant communication where you're answering those same 10 questions every day.
Absolutely. I mean, that's over a third of their day spent on that, and then that time is freed up. That's incredible. And totally. I mean, is that something you see, is that common for that amount of time to be spent that Hona is solving? Is that a common thing you see in firms, that sudden clearing of time like that for them?
Yeah, absolutely. And what it becomes is like, you need to call your clients. It depends on practice area and the length of the case. There's so many factors that go into it. I'm always happy to talk about all the factors because there's a lot to it. But what this free time does is it allows you to progress cases more quickly, right? Like you have more time to do your actual casework and your legal work. But B, like the clients that need your attention or that could really benefit from like a timely call at an important piece of the case, like it allows you to be more empathetic to those clients because you're not spending as much time with the same redundant conversations. Like you can prioritize things a little bit differently when you're not spending so much having redundant conversations. You now can get proactive and do things a slightly different way. So there's so much to it, but yes, so many firms spend so much time, specifically like the case managers, paralegals, legal assistants in the organization. They spend so much of their day-to-day on client communication. The attorneys, depending on how mature the firm is, can take a couple steps away from that, but their support staff that's doing so much important legal work and helping them progress cases, they're the ones that have that inundation happening.
Well, Matt, this has been a fantastic conversation. If anybody out there listening could use your help, could use Hona's services, where can the people find you?
Yeah, so Hona.com, super simple, HONA.com. That's a great place. If you want to see a demo of Hona, we've got a team of product specialists that can set up a custom demo. We usually add when we show someone Hona, we add their logo to our build out, and we make it really personalized because we want you to see the experience that your clients are going to have. So that's a great place. Beyond that, there's like a general contact form there as well. So if you want to get in touch with me directly, that's a great place to do it. But if you want to see a demo, there's a little button saying request a demo. If you want to just get in contact, there's that contact form.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been great.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Matt, thank you again.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.